to a special Liquid Lunch interview we've got here today with Delahnnovah Starr-Livingstone, back for a second time here. And welcome back from Revelatorium.com. And boy, we had quite a discussion the last time you were here, Delahnnovah.
Well, it was rambunctious, wasn't it?
But we didn't get to the... we were going to talk about the 18 dimensions.
Well, we started and then got sidetracked and never come back. So I wanted to
we're going to get
we're going to do
a
that.
lot of stuff to talk about because you got the book, which is a big, thick book. Well, let's talk about, first of all, I think people do want to know, because I listened to that other interview that you did, and he was asking you, where is this information coming from? Because you got the book, right? Can I hold it up?
Yeah. Now, let me explain briefly. There's the book called the Revelatorium, and the Intelligent Design and Creation are the same cover with a different title. It was an experiment to the same book. I, by mistake, brought this one today instead of the Revelatorium. But
so it's the same artwork.
Everything's the same. Yeah.
Right. So, and it's what I was impressed with listening to your other interview before we get to the source of it was how the information is consistent. Like, you could say you're just making all this stuff up, but
it's hard to lie for a long period of time.
Yeah, and you're saying the same things in the last interview with us, in the interview with
Rob McConnell.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit before we get into it about where this information is coming from.
I've come around. When I was interviewing with him, that was quite a few months ago, and I kind of avoided the idea of where it came from or trying to qualify myself, because man works with it. They have to, because they don't have anything else, but they have to qualify themselves before they think you will believe what they say. So they trot out their credentials. They have spent 30 years at a university digging in archives, that kind of stuff. And the message in the Revelatorium information is the message, not how it got there or who did it. It had nothing to do with that.
But we're still curious.
No, I know. See, now I've come around a little bit. I've taken a bit of a softer edge. I mean, the long and the short of it, if you can handle this, you can handle a lot of what I'm going to tell you, okay? But in the same way that John the Divine got the revelations, I'm getting the Revelatorium. Now, you can see the parallel between the names right there.
Yeah.
All right? There is a parallel between the names. This is the new Revelations, if you want to put it down in a nutshell. Okay.
Okay.
But it doesn't come from a big voice in the sky. As I was joking with you earlier, a UFO doesn't land in the backyard and hand me a courier pouch. Nothing like that's going on.
That's too bad. That would be cool.
Well, that would be cool. Yeah. But not a lot. Not too far off, because the radionic ships are around all the time, and there's a communication coming down from them all the time. The radionic ships are the heavenly host. Revelation says he will returneth with clouds.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty big statement. Clouds are all over the planet all the time. You just don't know what you're looking for yet. So there's a chapter in the Revelatorium, chapter 39, because the heavenly host is a vast millions and millions of ships outside of the orbit of Pluto, and they teleport in all the time into the fifth dimension. They set up a magnetic field, and the magnetic field gets reflected in the ionized air vapors moving through. So you see rays. It's just like the spokes of a wheel. And the telltale is it's not chemtrails. Chemtrails meet at the horizon by parallax. These will meet at about 10, 20 degrees off the horizon at a point of center. That's your telltale. And they're all over the place. So, back on track of how this information is coming through and so on.
Because I'm not sure how John the Divine got it even. I know.
Well, I'm just saying, John, the Revelations is a pretty big piece of script, and it's only 10% supposedly of what. So he didn't get it all in like one boom. Oh, I got to write all this down. What do you know? It obviously. So, in my case, there's a number of different ways that parts of this have come through. The one that I have the most fun with is, if you can imagine from Star Trek, data is downloading the computer from the Klingons, and you see that stuff falling down just like, cascade of images and symbols falling down as he's downloading. Well, instead of that, but the same idea, if you took like one of these security camera rooms with 20 or 40 cameras, this camera has a view, it fades out, comes back in with a new view. Fades out, comes back in with a new view. All of them are doing that. Boom, 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 boom. So that's the static equivalent, not static, but that's the fixed equivalent of the information cascading down. I will be fast asleep. This is all lucid dreaming stuff, and this is where most of the prophets got their visions. Visions are lucid dreaming things.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, whammo, here's one of these big arrays set up, and this stuff was going on, da-da-da-da. And I know in a couple of days' time, all of a sudden, my thoughts are going to start popping up. And they just pop in. All of a sudden, I'm thinking about this. I'll actually go through a conversation with myself, just like I'm talking with you, the whole thing right out. I get it down before I forget. And then I have to streamline it and make it readable and so on. But that's how a lot of it comes down.
So basically, first you have a lucid dream, and then a couple of days later, you start to
the
think about it consciously,
and
then you got to write it.
That's it.
On your computer.
That's it. I'm the wordsmith.
When did this start? I'm just curious.
Well, it started. I underwent a Christ Melchizedek teaching that was given to a handful of the elect of Christ in 1971 in Vancouver. There should have been thousands in there.
Yeah.
But the migration got siphoned off by drugs. LSD took a lot of them out. The Eastern mystics moved over, and millions and millions of people went to the feet of the gurus and so on. That siphoned off the migration, blah, blah, blah. People were coming in from all around the world. Should have been for that.
So this was in Vancouver?
This is in Vancouver in 1971. It was actually supposed to have started, I have to go back a wee bit.
So you were living in Vancouver then?
I was in Vancouver until 1974, and then I moved to Alberta, and that's it.
All right.
But anyway, in 1958, I guess, there was a fellow in Denver, Colorado in 1955 accepted a walk-in Melchizedek consciousness the same way that Drunvalo Melchizedek has a walk-in Melchizedek, but I've got to go back to that a wee bit because things aren't quite right there, all right?
I met his brother once.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was CIA. I guess you know that at one time. He started CIA.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know? Well, he did. And he accepted, and he was brought up to this very elect of Christ group that I was telling you about because he was a key player.
Okay.
And he turned his back. He walked away after 2 or 3 days and said, I'm going to go out on my own. So his stuff was good, but it doesn't get... that cut himself off from source, just the very fact that he turned his back. It cut himself off from source. So his stuff was good, but it's not out of the mentalized illusion, top end of the fourth dimension stuff. He doesn't have anything going on that's from the higher dimensions down, despite how good it looks.
So that's Drunvalo.
This is Drunvalo. His name is Drunvalo Melchizedek.
Okay.
But this other other fellow accepted, and he worked with it and did what the directions took him. So he brought through the whole charter for Alpha and Omega Order of Melchizedek, GEOM, in the late 50s, and he did it in a laundromat in New York in the middle of the winter. It was the only place that was warm. So he came to Toronto in 61 to make a contact with the party here that was supposed to have been the beginning of that group.
So wait, who was that?
His name was Livingstone.
Came to Toronto in 61.
He was directed up from LA. He was directed up to make contact. The guy came home, and he was sitting in his room, and he told him the whole thing about the charter, the new, and the fellow didn't connect. This was 59. No, sorry, 61. So it didn't get going then. It did finally get going in Vancouver in 1970-71, and it was a small group to start.
And you were in that group?
I was in that first.
Were you a bunch of hippies back then?
Yeah, unfortunately, we were.
So, what happened? You all got together at somebody's apartment one night?
It's funny. I'll give you my first. I saw a UFO silver ship, and this will give you a bit of an idea. The apartment was in the second floor of an apartment. We're going loose today. We're not going tight like the last one, all right?
Well, yeah.
So we're the apartment that the lectures were being given at the time were second floor apartment on Kingsway in Burnaby, Vancouver area.
All right.
Okay. So there was a break, coffee break, and so on. There was 3 of us went out on the back porch out by the kitchen. There was a girl about 18, 19-year-old girl from Colombia. And there was a 6'9" Sasquatch, and I mean Sasquatch in the literal sense. He was incarnated Sasquatch. They're the gentlest and kindest people on the planet.
I just watched a video about Sasquatches last night.
No, well...
And they're from in Ontario.
Sure.
Was he all furry?
No. Well, he looked like, the Scragg brothers from Little Abner? with the big buck teeth and the sort of scruffy. Well, he's 6'9" and his brother is 6'10".
He was really 6'9".
He was 6'9". His brother's 6'10", and they're incarnated Sasquatch.
Now, how did you know they were Sasquatch?
Well, I was told they were Sasquatch.
Did they? How did they talk?
But their parents were normal size, and they're quite bright. They're not goons or anything like that. They're quite bright. They're very spiritual people.
That's what I was hearing. Yeah. And these were Ontario Sasquatches.
Yeah. Well,
and that they're actually they're interdimensional.
Well, to a point they are.
Well, these guys were, and anyway, it's blowing my mind.
Just the furry yetis, and they're the gentlest and shyest people on the planet. That tells you pretty well everything you need to know.
So what were these Sasquatches doing in your...
Well, they're incarnated because they're part of the elect of Christ. All these two fellows were, anyway. So, long and short, and I can't even remember... Oh, yeah, so we're on the back porch of the lecture going on in Vancouver.
Yeah.
We're taking a break, and the three of us are out in the back. It's overcast, and in those days, when Sabre jets were flying around, you could hear the jet trail, because they're doing about 600 miles an hour. They're not, But if you saw a Sabre jet with the wing, the wings that went back like that...
Yeah.
Then, if you went about so far back, you'll hear the sound. The sound trailed
behind
the plane. Yeah, this is anybody that's from the '60s and '70s remember Sabre jets. That's the way they worked.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of a sudden, it was just like a spotlight in the sky. This light Sabre jet was going by, and I went to the sound. There's no sound at all. And I went back to the plane. No sound at all. The girl from Columbia was just talking about every time she saw a UFO, she'd get a buzz over the top of her head. She had her hand over the top of her head. Mm-hmm. The porch door opened. The lecturer stuck his head out and said, "Did you see it? Did you see the UFO?" Shut the door and walked back in. And I said, "Right." Here's a guy who knows what he's talking about.
Well, who was the guy giving the
Well,
lecture?
This is back in '71, don't forget. He's passed away now. So
but I mean, what was the subject, or what attracted you to this group?
Here's again how it worked. Again, we're going loose. This is I was going to do this kind of stuff with John, and probably still will, because this is not in the book. None of this stuff is in the book. All right? But the book has come from this stuff. All right, and that stuff was like 10% of the book. Most of the book has been new stuff. All right.
Okay.
Oh boy, this is a long story, but it's a kind of a fun one. I was up in Harrison Lake. Well, prior to that, I had met a guy in Vancouver. We called him Richard, Gypsy Richard. This was before any of this stuff was going on. I'm a hippie. I was managing a hippie rock and roll band.
You were?
Yeah.
Which band?
Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck. Some of you will know that.
Those.
Well, there you go. I was the manager then. I actually helped put them together, but that's again another story. So Richard shows up. He's in a long T-shirt, blue jeans, bare feet, never wore shoes, and long hair, and came and went. I mean, he just sort of showed up, and then he was gone again. But it was obvious that this guy knew a little bit more, because hippies are getting into the fourth dimension and ESP and stuff. They're starting to. We're talking about it. Here's a guy that seems to know what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different than talking about it. He seems to know what he's doing. So now I'm up at Harrison Hot Springs, living in a cabin on the shore of the lake for a couple of months. A guy knocks on my door. Turns out to be a dishwasher from the big resort. Harrison Hot Springs was a world famous, hot springs resort. Says, "I heard there's a guy up here who's really interesting. I got nobody to talk to. Do you mind if I, So he'd come over every once or twice a week, and we'd just sit and BS for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So now there was also a hippie house in Harrison Hot Springs. That's where we all went to dinner. It was I don't know if you ever heard of the term farmer's soup. Everything from yesterday is in the pot. You add more stuff. That's the base for the meal today. Then tomorrow what's left over gets added to, and that can go on for years. It's called farmer's soup, see?
Okay.
So there would be about 6 radios would come, and we'd all bring something for the farmer's soup, see?
Yeah.
So I'm over there one afternoon, about 2:30 in the afternoon. Richard has come to town on his way going up north. Ron was there. The three of us are sitting in the living room in a triad. The 3 chairs are facing each other, talking away.
Yeah.
Out of the clear blue sky, Richard says, "So who's the little white guy sitting on your shoulder?" Ron went over back. If I shoved you flat on your back, bam, Ron went flat on the ground, sprang to his feet, Yeah, well, he's sitting there on your shoulder, and of course I ain't going blink, 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 because I see F all, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you didn't see it.
No, but Richard said he's sitting there right on your shoulder.
On Ron's shoulder.
Yeah, Ron's flabbergasted. Ron's,
but he didn't know? He just didn't go, what are you talking about?
Well, he knew the guy was there. He says, he's been there since I was 10. He's there, he's there.
Oh, he knew about it.
Yeah, he said, how did you know? How did you know? And he said, well, he's sitting on your shoulder right now. And so I say, I'm sitting there with my blinkers going hard. I see nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Anyway, so Richard's gone. About 2 or 3 weeks later, Ron it turns out he's epileptic. He has a grand mal. I hear that he's in the hospital in Abbotsford. I hear 2 days later that he has woken up and he started, it's awful, it was horrible. There were armed guards on turn down it. Sorry.
No, you keep talking.
All right. It said there were armed guards on soldiers on street corners of every downtown intersection in a big Canadian city. It was awful. It was horrible, didn't it? And he was babbling away about this.
This was his vision.
Yeah, when he came out of the epilepsy, out of the seizure.
And what was that? Vision? Was that a vision of the FLQ crisis?
Good for you. Nice pick. Nice pick. 2 days later, Trudeau declared martial law in downtown Montreal, put a soldier on every street corner.
I remember.
Ron had seen it 2.5 days in advance.
Wow.
All right. So now I come to the group was putting up flyers for a weekend series of lectures. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I went to the first night with Ron. We came in from Harrison Hot Springs. We'd seen the posters and stuff. And at the end of it, Mr. Livingstone, we'll call him Mr. Livingstone just for fun. Mr. Livingstone said, I want you guys back here at 7 o'clock. He said, I want you to bring candle, incense, and chalk.
So who's this now, Richard?
No. Richard's now...
This is the guy that's
given the
lecture
Christ Melchizedek lecture.
In Vancouver.
Yeah, who walked out the porch door and said, did you see it? Did you see the flying saucer? And walked back in.
Okay. But you guys are up at the lake now still?
Well, we're still up at Harrison Lake. This is before this stuff started, because that was now in the winter. But we had come to town because we knew that there was 3 lectures being given Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night at a church hall kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the first night we were at the lecture, at the end he said, I want you to come back at 7 o'clock, which is an hour early. Bring the So we come back, there's just the 3 of us. He does a Star David in the middle of the floor. He puts the candle in the incense. Says, all right, Ron, I want you to come in here and stand with me. So Ron goes in. Back to the pit for my just at the top of his lungs.
Ron was freaking out?
No.
The lecturer.
David was doing a exorcism on him.
Oh.
See, but this is the proper way of doing an exorcism.
To get rid of the little guy on his shoulder.
So anyway, there's sulfur and boom, 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 and things. And I said, excuse me, what was that? And he said, well, Solomon had confined 7 demons in bottles. If you read Kings and so on, but Balthasar was one of them.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't know how he got out. He doesn't belong here, so I sent him back. But he says Balthasar was the one whose gift was prophecy. Now that's a nice tie-in.
Yeah.
That's a nice tie-in. See? But that's not what grabbed me. That just told me that this guy knew an awful lot more than Richard, because Richard could see the guy, didn't know who it was. David knew who it was and got rid of him. All right.
Okay.
Now this is 1971. Don't forget.
Right.
We're still talking a long time ago. Okay. The very first night of the lecture, which was the night before, for 2 years prior to that, I had started from about 66 on, starting to want to know. Starting to want to know. And I became completely absorbed with the Luciferian rebellion. Okay? So I started to look for anything I could find out about it.
So just from your knowledge of the Bible?
Well, I've never read the Bible all the way through. I know bits and pieces.
So how did you know about this Luciferian rebellion? Just curious.
Because people are talking, the dirty old Lucifer, but there was, from the Urantia book, which I read from cover to cover in 1969, and then spent the next 2 years unlearning. Mm-hmm. We can get into that later if you want. The Urantia book got some things right and a lot of things wrong. And it wasn't the Urantia book's problem. Now we're in the sidetrack. So get me back to this other point in a minute, okay? The Urantia book was brought through the higher consciousness of a lady undergoing hypnotherapy in the mid-30s.
Okay.
The doctor that was doing the sessions was a member of about 100-member spiritual group that were dealing with interdimensional stuff and so on. So he understood instantly what was going on. So he wire recorded all of her sessions. when it came time to try and scratch, she thought it was from the mouth of the devil. She was devout Catholic, wouldn't touch it, wouldn't have anything to do with it. So a Catholic priest came in and did the translation, put it into a book form. The Urantia book that's out there is from the hand of the Catholic priest. The Catholic priest expunged everything that wasn't in the Catholic faith. There's no Atlantis, there's no incarnation, there's no soul atoms, there's none of that stuff in there. All right? And in particular, Catholics teach Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. The Urantia book teaches infinite Father, infinite Son, and infinite Spirit. So you tell me the difference.
Not much.
That's right. And yet it was a fifth dimensional message brought through, but he squirted it back down into mostly third dimensional stuff. But he did get a lot of things right.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that.
So let's get back to we're in the exorcism in Vancouver.
Well, now we're going back the day before, all right?
The day before?
Yeah, well, we're back to that first lecture.
Okay.
All right? This is what my antenna went straight up, okay? I had spent 2 years from, finding everything I could about the Luciferian rebellion. What the heck was it? What went on? Da-da-da-da. We come in, we sit down, there's a blackboard. The lecture starts. The very first thing he does is walk to the blackboard and says, we are now in the aftermath of the Luciferian self-will rebellion of the cosmic overplus, and this is what's going on. And I said, right, you got my attention.
Because that was your big main topic?
That was my big main thing. I mean, he directed that right at me,
Right.
We're now, but see, I'm looking for what's going on about the Luciferian rebellion. He says, we're now in the cleanup in the aftermath of the Luciferian self-will rebellion of the cosmic overplus. So he's telling you officially what that was.
So you're all ears.
So I'm all ears, yeah. Now the Urantia, beg your pardon, the Revelatorium has 3 chapters devoted to that subject.
All right.
The cosmic overplus, and this again is interesting. He never said what the cosmic overplus was.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah. There's a whole chapter now, and it was one of these things that came through, boom. Literally boom. And again, you're talking about how do I know these things? I mean, this had to be like a big pinata sitting up there in my higher consciousness, waiting to come down, and then somebody gives it a bat, and boom, the whole thing falls. I knew there was a cosmic overplus, had no idea what it was. I knew there was a Luciferian rebellion without knowing any of the details. What did self-will mean, all that kind of stuff. And I also knew that there was a new creation going on in Andromeda. An antimatter universe is now under. We're in the bifurcation. We're right in the center of the bifurcation. That's why it's all going on here. Earth is center of the whole universe, of a new universe starting out.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. We're right in the middle of the whole thing. I mean, this is it. This is the busiest place in the universe right now. Right here, see? Anyway, long and short of it is, I knew that was going on. I knew it was an antimatter universe, and I didn't know anything more about it. It was based on consciousness rather than intelligence, energy, substance, but I didn't know any of the details, any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I have all these things I've been asking. This is about 6 years into the Revelatorium. I still don't know what the cosmic overplus is. He just mentioned it. He never explained it. And so I'm walking around with all these questions.
But this is 1971.
No. Well, that was 1971. I'm now talking about 2006, 2007.
Right.
Okay. The Revelatorium started in 1998, and I'll get to how that started.
I want to know how you got from 1971 then to 1998.
I was out of the teachings. The teachings were actually sort of ended in about 76. Officially. I mean, there was some stuff going. But anyway, I moved to Ottawa in 81. I spent the whole first 20 years keeping my mouth shut. I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't do anything. I didn't think about it. I mean, I just acquiesced.
You just took a job, did your life?
Well, I did my stuff. Yeah, the reason why is because the authorities were out after it. Because the Moonies were coming up, the Hare Krishnas were causing problems. And so the authorities had pigeonholed everything to this group. They thought it was a mammoth organization. There was 30, 40 people. They thought it was so they...
What was the organization?
It was called the Alpha and Omega Order of Melchizedek, GEOM. GEOM means General Etheric Order of Melchizedek. It's a 4th dimensional, 5th dimensional.
And these were the people you were studying with in
This
Vancouver?
is the people I was studying with, yeah.
Right.
Order of Melchizedek, in the Bible it says, I sweareth and repent not. Christ is forever a priest of the Order of Melchizedek, so it's obviously not Earth order. And order doesn't mean, it means ruling or structure, like the law and order. Order, of Melchizedek is the rules of how creation are based. So that's what the order of Melchizedek is. All right, is how creation is put together, the intelligent design of creation that's going on. That's 4 chapters in the book, and it has never been put before mankind. This is all brand new.
Okay.
It has never before been put before. Creation is 900 trillion light years across, still in its diapers. Okay, the people from the first part of the outer creation never knew what the whole intelligent design was and what the plan for the future stuff were. It was brought through here for the first time, and it's now gone back out to creation at large, but it was done that way because this bifurcation point that we're talking about is very sensitive. It has to be done right, or there could be big problems.
Now, is that what's happening right now?
We're in the middle. When one super universe comes off a second, when I get into the dimensions, this is one of the fourth dimension stuff. This is what I was going to be dealing with. But there's 7 super universes. They're like bubbles. They're great bubbles that are like on a plane, like petals of a flower around the inner creation. Mm-hmm. All right, and the first of the super universes was based on the attribute of intelligence, where substance and energy were diminished. It bifurcated, creating, like starting with atoms, and then, literally the same way cells bifurcate, I think is the word. I'm not sure. I never get it right.
Depends where you're from.
Yeah, it depends. Potato and potato. So take your pick. Anyway, I use bifurcate because I can remember bifurcate for some reason. So the second super universe, based on energy, where substance and intelligence is diminished, bifurcated off the first, then the third, and then we're now in the seventh and final super universe of intelligence, energy, and substance equal. We're in the triune super universe. All right?
Right.
There is now a new 8th super universe, bifurcating off this one, which is going to be antimatter universe. And there's going to be 7 full antimatter super universes on the same program. Intelligence, then energy, then substance, And this is where the cosmic overplus comes in. The original first super universe was biased, high on intelligence, low on substance and energy. The first new super universe starting off has to be high in intelligence as well. But we're in a triune universe that it's coming off of.
Yeah.
So in order to have a higher than intelligence factor against the substance and energy component, there has to be a cosmic overplus. So this local universe of 1,000 galaxies has configured in it, nowhere else in all of creation, a cosmic overplus, which is a higher intelligence factor.
Right.
If you read around a lot about Lucifer was more intelligent than the rest of the guys in his level of, Leonardonic sun dispensation beingness. Right. He had higher than intelligence. Why me? Why did he? Well, it's so he could handle the overplus energies properly.
But then he rebelled.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And now we're dealing with all that.
Now we're dealing with the shit in the aftermath. Well, but it's almost done. I mean, Armageddon is a cleanup that's going through 1,000 galaxies. And it's the 4th dimension and the 5th dimension lines that were contaminated, energy lines that were contaminated by all this. Self-will, it's really simple. You have your higher consciousness, which is attuned to the creators. And at birth, your higher consciousness triggers your molecular data into a outer ego, which is what you are, what I am, what everybody is. It's your outer ego, which is tied to the molecules of the body, the intelligence factor inside, and the energy factors moving through. You have a outer ego consciousness. The name of the game is for that outer ego consciousness to come into alignment with your inner soul atom self, which starts around about the age of 12. You start getting, hints. You get an epiphany at the age of 12 to kickstart. By the time you're 17 or 18, you've either accepted the mentalized illusion, you're going to be career-oriented, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or, whatever, or you don't know you haven't settled down yet, and sometimes you never do, which is good. You start moving into this kind of stuff. You're still not settled, but you'll just keep doing it. But you're going in a spiritual direction, and that's the whole point. The idea is for the outer consciousness to come into alignment with the inner consciousness, all right, the outer ego. And I'm way off track, but let me finish this one because this is.
And then I have another question that might take us further off track. Go ahead.
All right. The Day of Atonement is probably the most misunderstood word in the whole lexicon, because if you take atonement, which is the day that you cotton up for your sins, blah, 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 oh, please forgive me, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Atonement actually means at-one-ment. At-one-ment.
I knew that already.
You knew that already. Everybody knows this. At-one-ment, the day of at-one-ment is when your outer consciousness has reached a point of satisfactory involvement where it can be brought up and absorbed into the higher consciousness as a permanent part of that, as an adopted fruit. That's what the adopted fruit phrase means. And this is every incarnation anybody ever goes through. That's the goal. In the current circumstances of Earth, it doesn't happen that way very often, but that's what's going on. So your question was?
My question is, okay, so we have, because you're talking about the Revelatorium is a new Revelations. Now, Revelations being the last book of the Bible, the Omega of the Alpha.
Well, Alpha and Omega, the Revelatorium of Alpha and Omega. Hint, hint, hint.
Okay, so, but my point is that the Revelations, in a sense, some people talk about the Bible being the most complete book of all, in that it begins at the very beginning and it ends at the very end. So I would like to know what is different. Did Revelations go wrong somewhere that you're correcting with the Revelatorium?
No, the Revelations never went wrong at all. Man's interpretation, which is basically literally physical plane type interpretations, has gone very wrong. In fact, there's a book around that says, "Out of the sea will arise a terrible beast with seaweed hanging off its horns."
Yeah, all that stuff.
And all that kind of stuff. Out of the sea of consciousness, if you can envision what a sea of consciousness would be, out of the sea of consciousness will arise a bestial nature, all right, which will be spotted as unto a leopard, feet of a bear, mouth of a lion, and seed of the dragon, all right? Spotted as unto a leopard. You have Europe, which is 35 different countries with totally different consciousnesses. In every country, even 1 mile apart, like France and Germany. They're totally different people. They're a mile apart.
Yeah.
There's 35. Spotted as unto a leopard. Out of the sea of consciousness will arise a bestial consciousness which is spotted as to a leopard. Now you got all of Europe.
Yeah.
The feet of the bear walks a vast Russian landscape.
Right.
Out of the mouth of the lion has come the English language to all corners of the world.
Right.
English is the fifth dimensional language is the language that's being brought into humanity now, and even the guys in grass huts in the middle of the desert, not desert, but the jungles in Africa are speaking English. It's coming down because it's capable of expressing the higher fifth dimensional concepts of reality.
Okay.
The book is written. A lot of people have, or think they have, trouble reading the book because the language isn't what they're used to, the structure of the language. Because it's a fifth dimensional structuring. Don't forget, I'm not the guy that says, "Oh, well, I've got a degree in, PhD in English, so I'm going to write it like Hemingway."
Right.
I write it. It feels right. Here's a big point. I can rewrite something 20 times over a period of a couple of months and so on until it feels right.
Yeah, I hear you.
Then it never gets changed.
Okay.
Right? And I want to get into that because I've only told you one way of the stuff coming down, but that's a big one, and that can change. I mean, this way today it's this way another. I had once it was a fairly small bunch of pictures, but it was Nazi symbols. There's a language out of I saw it once. I don't know in the old pre-Sumerian where that language is written like Nazi symbols. And it's very harsh, black and white. Well. 2 or 3 days later, a big chunk of the Luciferian rebellion that I didn't have. And boom, what do you know?
All right.
So that was how a lot of it was coming in. There was another example when I've talked about. Oh, and I know the pinata. So I didn't know what the cosmic overplus was. I knew that Luciferian had gone into all of this stuff, done a rebellion. I didn't know what he'd done and how he'd done it.
Yeah.
And what it had caused, what the problems were. Mm-hmm. I knew that there was a new creation going on in, a new eighth super universe that's going to be based on consciousness, and it's going to be antimatter. What are the details there? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
my brother, who sadly passed away about 4 years ago from cancer, which he caused himself in 1979. We can go into that if you want, but that's another story.
Maybe another show.
Yeah, another story. Anyway, good soul. Anyway, I walked past his computer, and he just sort of out of the side of his nose, he says, far out, the universe is bifurcating. Well, it's just like somebody whacked the banana. That whole big, huge glob of info was up there, and it just fell. And in one shot, I knew what the cosmic overplus was. I knew what it was for. I knew what Lucifer had done. I knew what the problems were, and I knew how the new creation was going to go in the new anyway.
Okay.
But it was one shot. It was just one big bang.
All right. Well, we're going to do a few more of these conversations because we only got about 15 minutes left. And,
really? It's gone fast.
It's ridiculous how fast it's going. Okay, but let me ask you. Okay, so when people read Revelations, for example, okay, what they do, they look at that and they say, this is prophecy. And they read, just, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but so they view it as prophecy, and they're able to fit current events into that prophetic framework, and they say, okay, so we're headed towards the end of history, the return of Christ.
Christ is back,
and we need to get our act together before God, before the atomic war hits, and before Israel starts to tear down the Dome of the Rock and all that stuff, right?
I don't even know where to.
Yeah, I know, but so like, what is this Revelatorium telling us to do?
Well, this Revelatorium is telling you what you have to do. Well, first of all, the end of the world doesn't mean bam, there's no more world. The end of the world means the society and the preconceived beliefs that you think are all of reality will be dissolved. It's already starting to happen. A lot of people. You is a good example. You're starting to see things from a higher and higher and higher dimensional point of view, and you start to see some of the idiocy of what's going on down. Like watch TV shows,
I've seen a few.
I mean, Dancing with the Stars, come on down. I know people that spend all day watching that stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting worse.
It's getting worse. Yeah.
But anyway, the end of the world is basically the ending of all that stuff. And a spiritual, let me see, when the consciousness expansion officially, and believe it or not, this is going to be, I'm going to pin it down, you're going to do it, but anyway, it was October 10th, at 10 p.m. in the morning is when the first energy hit.
Just like a couple weeks ago?
No. October 10th of, 1993. Almost immediately in the wake of that, hippies sprung up out of nowhere. Hippies were distinguished because they were aware of consciousness. The straight people before them, who are the last generation, by the way, weren't aware of consciousness. They were aware of only the most outer superficial.
You're talking about the pre-hippie generation.
The pre-hippie generation, the parents of the hippies.
Yeah.
That's the last generation.
Yeah,
means literally that group. The movies from the early '60s. Take a look at them. They're all like acrylic tabletops. They're Doors Day and Rock Hudson. That whole genre.
So that was the last generation.
That's the
of the old world.
That's the last. Yeah. And then hippies came in on stream, who were aware of consciousness.
Yeah.
And we're able to talk about it. I mean, it's right from 65 up. So now we ended up going through all these escalations, which are all part of the revelations. The 10% of the revelations that are missing weren't destroyed. They were kept secret. They were the instructions of how to set up the different Templar grids around the world to house the different consciousnesses that would be coming in at the present time for the next stage of the evolution, which is like the Templar grid set up Europe.
Okay, let me ask you. So,
but anyway, 2012, we're now, and it's already starting. We're now being moved up into, like, the hippies came on board with an awareness of consciousness. Now we're going up into the use of consciousness. Okay. That's the next phase. We're coming now into the use of consciousness.
Let me ask you. So we got things like, for the apocalyptic people out there, and I'm struggling with myself, I'm just saying, with the whole apocalyptic thing for my whole life. But anyways, we got things right now. We got, the seemingly permanent threat of a nuclear war hanging over our heads. We have Fukushima. We have environmental devastation, right?
Stuff,
I mean, we got all these things. We got chemtrails. We got all this stuff that all seem to be.
The negative have got a pretty good toehold.
What's that?
The negative have a pretty good toehold. The Antichrist factors have a pretty good toehold.
Yeah, that's what. Well,
but it's not like. Here's an example. Your thoughts, your consciousness go out, reflect back with similar frequencies and so on. If your consciousness is totally self-centered, egotistic and so on, that's all that comes back. So people that are behind the scenes pulling the strings on this Antichrist stuff think they're in charge and think they're going to rule the planet and blah, blah, blah. What they don't know that on the other side of the window that's reflecting back to them, there's 900,000 trillion light years of universe that's against them. So, I mean, that's how big this deal really is. It looks bad for us because we're right in the middle of it. If you're in the middle of the fastest part of the river, it looks like it's pretty bad. But the rest of the river is nice, calm, and tranquil. Just because you're right in the middle of that fast part, it looks like bad.
Well, so what's going to happen?
Well, over the next, I'm not giving any time frame and so on, but first of all, Christ Michael is back. He's been back since May of 2014. He's in the fifth dimension. He's communicating to his people all the time through the fourth. The heavenly host is, you have to read the chapter 39. The heavenly host is all over the place. The back thread is being set up rather well. BRICS is a Christ Michael operation. The 100 and
Brazil, Russia, India.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah.
In December 11th of 2012, 180 emissaries were sent out interdimensionally to contact all of the various world leaders and economic figures and so on to seek their agreement to join a Christ unified body for the welfare of humanity for the time to come, economically and prosperity and so on. And they all agreed except the Dalai Lama group, who's centered in Denver. The Dalai Lama that you see on TV is not the Dalai Lama. The boy guru out of India in the 70s and early 80s is the 12-year-old kid that come out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately and sadly for all, he is the true Dalai Lama. His parents thought he must be a guru because at the age of 3 or 4, he's already mouthing.
What's he doing now, though?
He's teaching spiritual path therapy in Denver.
What's his name?
Well, I don't even, can't even remember it.
But he's in Denver and he's the real Dalai Lama.
He's the real Dalai Lama, and
but he's on the wrong side of all this good stuff?
No, he's on the wrong side of all this good stuff, yeah. His parents...
What about the other Dalai Lama, one we know as the Dalai Lama?
Well, he's the one that everybody thinks is the Dalai Lama, and himself probably thinks he's the Dalai Lama. He's just, I mean, what's the word? I don't even know.
But he just got, they picked him by accident?
I don't think he knows he's not the Dalai Lama. I think people say, you're the Dalai Lama. He said, oh, what do you know? What do you want me to do?
Lucky me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure that's closer to it.
So what's going to happen with these chemtrails?
Chemtrails, all of these things. See, higher consciousness has a way of just with a thought clearing it all.
So in other words, and you said that the consciousness, so can consciousness change chemtrails? Can consciousness change
what do you think
radiation?
These Oregon, what do they call them, cloudbusters? Have you ever seen those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I put some around myself. So
I build them myself.
Well, there you go. I never built them, but but that's, I knew a guy, and this is absolutely true. He used to sit on the bridge in Nelson, British Columbia, and dissolve the clouds going overhead. And the townsfolk would say, poor lad, he's had it, because all they ever saw was him standing there staring at the sky. But he was conscious. He was doing it just for fun, dissolving the clouds going by.
Well, also, if you go down to the lake here, it's clean as a whistle.
Yeah.
Because people have been gifting the shore of Lake Ontario with these Toronto
devices. Today compared to Toronto in 95, 85, it's not the same city. It's really clean now compared to what it used to be. I was here in the late 60s with the Mother Tuckers band that I was telling you about. Yeah. And you couldn't breathe the air. It had that stank, hard...
Well, because we used to have industry. Now that's all moved to China.
Yeah, there's just no comparison. There's no comparison. By the way, just for fun, this is absolutely nothing to do with anything except when I was coming in on the 403, there's a point where you reach the turn and you get the first wall view of downtown.
Of Hamilton?
Of Toronto.
Okay.
Of Toronto. And the needle is sitting straight up.
Yeah.
The first half was clear, then there was a cloud covering the middle half, and the antenna, red and white antenna at the top, sitting up there clear as well.
So
if I hadn't been driving, it would have been a perfect photograph.
In other words, the lump in the middle was covered by a cloud.
Yeah,
so you just saw the
coming
needle.
off the lake.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was neat. Beautiful
I've never
picture.
seen that view myself.
Beautiful picture. I probably never will again in my lifetime. But I was driver. I couldn't stop.
Because you have to come down the hill and see Hamilton too, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah. There's another big view of Hamilton.
Which is also a beautiful city when you come down
and
the
mountain. And it's for strange reasons. I don't know. When you come down at the bottom as you're going down through Maine and all those curves and so on, you slow down to 90 and 100. Why? I don't know.
Well, the curves are...
well, it's just, it's subtle. Yeah, it's...
Are they... anyways, but that's a whole
slow
other...
down, yeah.
That's another
anyway,
topic.
So, all right,
but,
question.
Okay, so... Gosh. So, I don't know. What do we miss?
I don't know.
What do we do? What do we do?
Well, here's the thing. I hate to be a picture of but the Revelatorium was brought through to teach you what you need to do as your contribution to clean this mess up. That's the best way.
So for example, somebody like me or everybody who's watching this right now, for example, they have to get their hands on the book. Is that right?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, and they can do that by going to revelatorium.com and clicking on the link to buy it on Amazon, right?
Yep.
So they read the book.
Go ahead.
Well, you're saying the language is a little bit weird. What's going to happen when you read the book? How am I going to know what I'm supposed to do?
Well, because your higher factors are involved, you'll read stuff, you won't understand it. You'll read stuff that says, right, I hate to use the word, it resonates with me, because that sounds just a little bit too much over the top.
But what if it doesn't resonate?
Well,
then you're not ready, right?
Well, that's probably the best way to put it. But the other side of the coin is, I know a guy in Buffalo, New York, has read the Revelatorium 20 times. Every time you read it, you get more, because, by the time you get to the end, you know a lot more about the language and stuff than you did at the beginning. You go to the beginning, you get a lot more out of that, which gives you a lot more understanding at the end. It never ends. I mean, I've written it. I'm just going through a rewrite right now, and I'm seeing things that I didn't see.
But you're rewriting it now?
Oh, I rewrite it all the time.
Does that mean you're going to have a re-release?
Well, probably in about another month there'll be basically it'll be the same book, just the core text part will be changed, but it won't be mammoth. I mean, there's no new chapter. Just paragraphs here, a little bit more fill out there. I know what I wanted to mention. One of the other real fun things. This is how do I get this information? How does this stuff happen?
Yeah.
Well, there's also the helping hand.
And what's that?
The helping hand. Well, I have now the big Panada come down. I know, about the stuff that's going now in Andromeda, and a huge big pile of info about that. But if you read that chapter, there's a lot of parts. It's like a Lego set. There's a whole pile of parts. And sequencing them, does this come first? Does that, what? I couldn't get the picture of what the details were, right? So I had it this way, and then I changed it. I do it that way, and I just, when I say until it feels right, you couldn't get it to feel right. One night I'm sleeping away. One of the fellows out of that elect group from 71, 76, I've got a filing cabinet open. It's all full of these files, and so he kind of pulls open the filing cabinet and starts moving the files around. Oh, you're spoiling all my filing. And then I woke up. 2 days later, this goes there, that goes there, this goes there, this goes there. Boom, it's done.
That's the helping hand.
That's the helping hand.
Okay. Yeah. So listen, I know you got a parking limit. It's about 26 after 3 right now. What do you want to do? Do you want to keep talking for a little bit, or do you want to...
Well, I say let's push it a bit.
A little bit more?
I figure maybe 10, 15 minutes at least, yeah.
Okay, so,
here I am,
Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck.
Well,
do you got any of those CDs? Did they ever get re-released on CDs?
No, but if you go on YouTube and look for Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck, there's 6 or 7 of their songs.
Like, I remember that name anyway. I don't know if I remember any of their music.
Well, the name came, here's a bit of, this is again before any of this started happening. My conscience had started expanding. I'm now in the hippie community, because I was in business before that,
Before you were a hippie?
I'm a rugby player, football player. I'm out of that jock.
All right.
Bone hard, dead rock up there.
And from where? Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Vancouver. Well, actually, I'm from Winnipeg, but where you go to high school is where you're from. Okay. So I went to, and then I went to UBC for a couple of years. Okay. I got Well, this is a selfish, worthless boast, but I did get into football well enough that I was asked in '59 to turn out for Edmonton Eskimo Spring Camp and BC Lions.
Yeah.
Didn't go.
Oh.
Well, I'd already played intermediate when I was a young.
What was your position?
Well, I would have been a tailback, halfback.
Okay.
You know, I could throw a yard. I could throw 70 feet standing on a dry day. On a wet day, I couldn't hit the window.
So you're disqualified
because
from being
my hands
quarterback.
were short. Yeah. But I was a running tailback. I could,
Okay.
you know, so and I was good at it.
Yeah.
You know. When I played intermediate, these are guys on the way up and on the way down. There's some pretty big fellows in there. You know?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, now I'm going to be playing with all big fellows. You know,
Yeah.
But I'd already started playing rugby, which I really did enjoy. So as a hooker, so I went over and started playing rugby. And then I ended up being picked for Canada against New Zealand All Blacks in '65, and against Japan All-Star in, again, '65.
How was New Zealand? Were they tough? Because they got all those Maori guys?
We were the last game of a 35-game tour.
Yeah.
The game before, they'd beat Wales 35-0 or 36-0 or something.
Yeah.
They had won every game.
Yeah.
We lost 8-5.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Now, what happened to me, though, is I got 95% of the strikes in the which nobody does, but that was my skill.
Yeah.
And I was 150 pounds. I was good.
Yeah.
But there was another guy that couldn't strike anything, but he was 195.
Mm-hmm.
So the deal was that in those days you couldn't sub. You know, you started your 15 players. If you lost 3, you played short. You know, in those days. So if it was raining, the big guys are in. If it's dry, the ball's in the air, they want the hook, so I'm in. Poured like a son of a bitch, both games. So I sat on the bench and watched. I got picked, but I didn't play.
So how did you transition to be a hippie?
Well, you see, that's the thing. When your consciousness starts to move, you either go with it or you don't. Well, I just started to go with it. My hair started getting a little bit longer.
When was that?
That was '65.
Wow, that was early.
65, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, don't forget when I said, but I do remember. See, the reason I say October 10th, 1962 at 10 in the morning, because I was sitting at the UBC, out in front of the UBC library, on one of their flower plot type things, studying, I can't remember, one of my textbooks or something. All of a sudden, the weirdest feeling came over. I mean, just like an energy change, like a really profound kind of thing. And then, in the wake of that, almost immediately, my eyes changed color. So I said, well, my thoughts are starting to change.
Like permanently?
Huh?
Permanently they changed?
Yeah. And
from what to what?
Well, from green to bluish, or bluish to greenish. I mean, whatever you want to. Anyway, they went through quite a substantial. Yeah. And I thought at the time that because my eyes had changed colors, my thoughts had started to change. Of course, it was the other way around.
Right.
You know, obviously, it was the other way around. But by '65, I was. Here's the beauty. I was offered. My last year at university, I did honors philosophy and honors philosophy. My third year, I did honors math, honors philosophy. My fourth year, I did nothing but. But I was teaching tutorial classes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was going for lunch with the prof at the faculty club. See, so we're getting just all right.
I know we're just kind of hitting some other crazy topics here, but
all right. Well, just to finish. Anyway, I got offered a chance to do an MA in philosophy at La Jolla. It was just opening up. It was the first year of the new campus and so on. But by the time the summer was over, I had already gone beyond. That was it. You know, that's past, and I was already starting to do this. So now I'm in the hippie. I'm running a hippie rock and roll club. On the weekends, I bring in a name band, and I put together some local musicians.
Yeah. I
called it Don Wiley's House Band, and so they would be the backup. One night we had a group together, a bass player that I liked, and we just knew it was a band. So that was the beginning of the band.
Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck.
Yeah, and the lead singer had come across. He was just in from Toronto. He'd only been 3 or 4 months. He was out in the prairies, outside of Regina somewhere, lying on their back, looking at the stars and so on. Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck just sailed straight through his brain. So he said, "I know what we're going to call ourselves. It's Mother Tucker's." That's how the name came together.
And did you ever have Chilliwack in?
Well, I knew Chilliwack really well. I knew those guys when they were the CKOJ or whatever it is, radio station's house band.
Yeah.
Then they morphed up into the Collectors,
Yeah.
And then the same -1 or 2 morphed up into Chilliwack.
Yeah.
They did some nice songs.
Well, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
they did a couple of really nice songs. You know.
Awesome. Everybody should
California.
get their greatest hits album. Every song
Yeah.
is a great one.
Yeah. So I was in the scene in Vancouver. I mean, if another day for another stories. I mean, I can tell you stories about the rock and roll days that would kind of wipe me out. You know.
I can't wait.
Anyway, because
Well,
me, I don't take anything not seriously, and I also don't take anything with a dead seriousness.
Yeah.
The Revelatorium I take with a dead seriousness in the sense that it's important, but I also don't put it out there like a doctor, PhD, talking about his find of a skull in Texas. You know?
Okay, we're 3 minutes past your parking time now.
Okay.
But why should people read this book?
Well, I can't answer that. Read it and ask yourself. I mean, don't forget, it's not my job is to get it. It's on the Christ table as is.
The Christ table.
It's called the Christ table. You put it there. It's out there for you. It's on the Christ table.
Okay.
That's the way it is. It's on the Christ table. It's for you. Now, if you don't get a buzz to pick it up and read it, or go to the the bookstore, or Amazon, or go to the website, so well, you're not ready. But there are people that have been walked all the way around through the internet to get to there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Are you finding that you're getting more and more interest in the book? More and more people.
Well, all
getting
of a sudden,
in touch
see,
and that sort of thing?
it's like the first part of the job is done. Like the book is finished. It's always going to have little additions on, but the main information that was in. 6 months ago, I could not have sat and talked to you without looking like a wooden fence post.
Yeah.
I would have frozen solid.
Yeah.
Now I'm having fun, but
Yeah.
it just suddenly changed, just overnight. Obviously, the next stage is now to get it out.
Okay. So
That's it.
I think we should wrap it up for today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so this is
Agreed.
what the book looks like right here, except it's called the Revelatorium because this is the alternative title.
Yeah,
but
let me
the
just finish
artwork's
it.
the same, right?
Well, the artwork is the same, except in the book that's on Amazon, the artwork is in black and white, and it's
Okay.
only $29
Yeah.
because it's in black and white.
Yeah.
But if you can, this is where we had this.
hold it up and show the color.
If you want the one that's in full color,
Yeah.
because the 3 colors of red, yellow, and blue, and this is just on a Turkish background because it shows up, but the 3 main colors are red, yellow, and blue. They're part of the intelligent design of creation, so you see that as you're looking at it, and that's important.
Okay, so this is our second discussion.
Yep.
We're going to do another one, in a month or so?
Yeah, sure. Call it a month. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been great.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to the 18 dimensions.
One of these days. Because I think we could go on forever.
Well, yeah.
And that's not even counting the stories of the Vancouver hippie days.
Yeah.
So thanks, Delahnnovah, for doing this today.
Well, I
and
appreciate it very much.
We'll
Yeah.
see you soon, and
Yeah,
we'll
good.
carry this on. Okay, so that's it. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned right here at thatchannel.com for lots more.